I'm Ben with the BTC Sessions, and this is your bullish bit brought to you by Bitrefill.com, your one-stop shop for living on a Bitcoin standard. Sign up and grab gift cards for eSIMs, gaming, e-commerce, your travel needs, food, and much more, and you can buy them all with Bitcoin and Lightning. Sign up today and use code BTC Sessions 10 for some special perks.
That we talk about in a totalitarian government, what's going to happen. We had a situation here in Canada where we had a totalitarian government come and step down and say, hey, you can't do this, and freeze bank accounts because they're donating to protesters. And then, when people started donating in Bitcoin, the day after, the Canadian government dusted off a 4-year-old piece of legislation that had been on the shelves in 2018 and threw it at our industry. And so they said, anything that they could do to throw at Bitcoin, they're going to do it. And they proved their stripes, during the Ontario trucker protest very clearly. This is a pretty, in the grand scheme of things, a trucker protest is a very inconsequential event for a major government in the world. And this is how they responded to it. How are they going to respond to something when it actually is threatening to the government? They're going to come down even harder. And what we've seen in the last about year and a half, because we put together a coalition of basically every single Canadian Bitcoin miner, except for like one or two who are mostly focusing on the US now. We all came together, we engaged with government, we said, look, you guys have no idea what you're doing. You've never consulted with us. You've never consulted with industry. Do you understand what the impacts of this are going to be? And they're just like, oh yeah, we used to work for Google. We understand Bitcoin. We understand mining. We understand the tech, and you have these conversations for weeks and months. And, 5 minutes before you're up, they say, actually, do you have a photo of a Bitcoin mine? Because, we haven't actually seen one before. And so, this is the kind of level of sophistication that we're dealing with here with politicians and bureaucrats and the people who are fighting against us. Obviously they want to cramp down on it. I think it's really easy to be really comfortable in the West. But that, I think, has been changing over the last couple of years, especially with COVID, really accelerated that move where people realize that, hey, things are not as rosy as they once were. Things are not as comfortable as they once were. We need to start opening our eyes because this train is coming. But the more we push with government and the more we push with politicians and regulators and bureaucrats, the more we're very clear that they just have zero understanding of the underlying technology or the industry or what's actually happening. We have every good data point on our side, like every single good data point on our side. When it comes to the only thing that you can say against Bitcoin, I think there's two. Okay, criminals use it, which I think we all know is a pretty nonsensical argument. I mean, every single US dollar is covered in cocaine. They don't use Bitcoin very often. Bitcoin is for very minor things. And then the second thing is on the ESG and the environmental. And it's very clear that they have zero understanding. People are really starting to get wise. I even had a podcast with Digiconomist like 2 weeks ago, and I got him to admit that his model is broken. And, it's especially broken when the price is going up in a very, very rapid environment. And that's when people care. Nobody looks at, hey, what is the environmental impact when Bitcoin's down at 16K? Everybody's saying, hey, we're at an all-time high. What is Bitcoin's environmental impact now? How much energy are we consuming? So that alone, getting Digiconomist to admit that his model breaks down in bullish environments, that makes me bullish right there, because that is behind every single piece of environmental FUD. Every single one of them cites Digiconomist. Everyone.